receiving it, you might want to just let them pour it and just not touch it.
That's what I would do.
That's perfectly acceptable. Nobody should comment on the fact that you didn't drink it. Okay? And sometimes when you're in mixed company and everybody else is having it, rather than stand out by declining it, maybe it's easier to just let them pour it and leave it in the receptacle.
That's what I've done before. I just let them pour it.
And then it just sits there. And that's fine. Because you know what? All these other people at the table, they may have several glasses, but they won't necessarily drain it the last glass they receive. So there's going to be some loss, if you will, regardless of whether you're drinking it or not. Other questions?
White wine is served cool and red is served at room temperature?
That depends upon vintage and the quality of the wine. So usually, though, white wine is served at pretty close to room cooler temperatures. Chill it usually in an ice bath, not necessarily cold. If you have a refrigerator set up basically for wine beverages, the temperature of that's usually between 40 and 42 degrees. It's really not, it's not like ice water. It's still warmer than typically your ice water glass was going to be. But red wines are usually served at room temperature, unless it's awful. Sometimes if it's awful, chilling it can make it more palatable.
Do they ever have like pepper, salt, stuff like that?
You may have salt and pepper on the table to pass, and if you have salt and pepper on the table to pass, and somebody asks you for it, you should pass both. Always. You don't ever just send a salt shaker down the table. They're sent as a pair, even though the person asked for one over the other. And that's just because, practically speaking, it's better to keep them together to pass them to the next person. You end up basically with things not contiguous. If you have a table set up for 8 people, there should be a minimum of 2 sets of salt and pepper, one at either end of the table for that number of people. Rule of thumb is about every 3rd person, you should probably have another. Every 3rd place setting, you should probably have another salt shaker set. Yeah. And you pass to your right or your left?
Right.
You pass to your right, always. So if we're serving family style, we're passing food, the host passes to the guest of honor. Here's how you remember. The guest of honor sits on the host's right hand. We pass to the guest of honor, he gets it first. And the last person who serves himself is the host. And that means if everybody helped themselves and there's nothing on the plate, the host doesn't get anything to eat. Okay? He is the host. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Okay? So we pass to the right so that the guest of honor always receives it first. Any questions?
Sugar and cream for the coffee.
Usually the same sort of rule is associated with salt and pepper. I'll back up and say that during Victorian turn of the century times, it was common for everyone to have their own salt receptacle. I have them. I should have brought them. They sit on a little pedestal. They're a little shallow little saucer that sits on a pedestal that holds about 2 tablespoons of salt maximum and has a little tiny spoon by which the salt is served. That was preferable to shakers because we didn't have control of our climate like we do in modern times. We control our air conditioning and our heat. And so we also control the humidity in our house. And that means that, and you know this doesn't work perfectly if you live in the South, that your salt doesn't form a solid cake basically in your salt shaker if you control your temperature. But so it was served in an open bowl because salt absorbs water from the air and crust over and gets solid. And so putting it in a shaker didn't work very well in an environment where we couldn't control heat and humidity. And so we have different sort of tools basically for that purpose. Up until, I guess, maybe the 1930s or so, salt and pepper shakers became popular. I should have thought about bringing them back because I have them. They're collectibles these days.
It's hard to find full ones that match.
It's hard to find the spoons. I find it's harder. I've got like probably a dozen of the little salt containers, but I can't find the spoons to go in them. That's the hardest part. They're about this long. They're not very big at all. So if you see them in an antique store,
It's almost like a miniature
yeah,
doll.
looks like a dollhouse spoon. And I've had people say, "Oh, is that for a dollhouse?" And I'm going, "No, that's a salt spoon." It'll hold about 1/4 of a teaspoon in the bowl. And the bowl is wide and flat, kind of like a soup spoon in proportion.